All right, guys. Well, we all want to be able to retire, but not just retire, be able to retire rich. But these 7 things you keep buying are a complete waste of money. All right, so you guys are going to get the truth without the hype today. And this list, especially my last one's probably going to ruffle some feathers. So let's talk about it down in the comments section. So the first thing you're wasting money on is a new or newish car. I think a lot of folks have kind of figured this out over the years. It seems like a lot more people are at least open to the idea that a car is 100% a depreciating asset and that it's not a quote unquote investment, or it's not necessarily a need. It's a need in regards to needing a car, but you don't need the latest and greatest car that's out there. However, that still doesn't negate the fact that we all get drawn in either by the latest tech or the newest piece of whatever. Now, I'm not saying you don't need a car at all. You absolutely have to have a car, especially here in the stateside. I understand in other places you can't. Obviously, you live in New York City, in the city there, you don't necessarily need a car. But most places, the way the US is set up, you need a car. But I still don't understand why I can drive a 2002 used vehicle, high mileage and everything else, and that's okay for me. But then other folks have to have the latest BMW, the latest Mercedes. Oh, the drive is so much better. Oh, it's so much safer, despite the fact that it's not really all that much safer than previous models. And all the other luxuries that kind of go with a car, they're all just simply wants, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wants. But if you don't make a lot of money, your wants over here are preventing your want over here. And the want over here is to retire. And you can't do both in a lot of cases, especially if you buy new cars the way most people buy new cars, which is every 2 to 3 years. They're purchasing a new vehicle or upgrading their vehicle for whatever reason. I don't understand it. It's something I've never understood, but I watched it across the board. On top of that, whenever you make a poor financial decision, like buying a car where it's almost guaranteed to go down, 20, 30% as soon as you drive it off the lot. And then obviously over the course of 2 or 3 years, it's already depreciated down 50% or more. People are high-fiving you. Your friends are high-fiving you. Your coworkers are high-fiving you. Oh, yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you. Way to go. It's like, I don't understand it. It's like everybody should be going like, what the heck are you doing? That to me is what a true friend would tell me. So I'm here telling you guys, what the heck are you guys doing if you have that sort of mentality with a car? I'm sorry, it's a waste of money. And in the end, if you want to be able to retire in the first place, you've got to watch that and be very, very prudent with your buys on the cars and hang on to them forever. I'm shocked at how many people go, oh yeah, well, I have to repair it. It's got this big thing. It's like, okay, cool. You got a $2,000 repair or a $4,000 repair. Instead of paying that money, your idea is to upgrade to a $40,000 vehicle instead. Like the math just doesn't math there, guys. And I'm sorry, and this is easy math. This is math anybody can do. A second grader can do this math. So it's not a lack of that. It's much more of a cultural thing. It's much more of a pride thing, self-worth thing, ego thing, whatever the heck you want to call it there, that prevents us from making the right decision instead of the wrong decision. But unfortunately, it's going to keep you from having a rich retirement. Obviously, not everybody fits into that category. A lot of folks make plenty of money to be able to afford whatever car they want. But generally speaking, the vast majority of the folks driving a BMW probably shouldn't be driving a BMW or another vehicle like that. Second thing you're wasting money on is designer stuff. This is as old as the story of time. I mean, I know during my time, everybody wanted a, Z Cavaricci logo, if you can remember that, or, the Nike check, or, the Guess logo, or, I'm trying to remember here, Polo, Tommy Hilfiger, whatever the case was, all kinds of deals. The designer brands mattered, despite the fact it's a freaking polo. It's a freaking pair of shoes. Now, I understand when you start getting into like athletic performance, I agree there completely. You don't want to be trying to do a, 10-mile run or a marathon in a crappy pair of shoes. Those are purpose-built, and I understand those. That is completely different than, hey, one polo right here, this other polo right here, same fabric, probably made in the same factory, but one has a logo on it, one doesn't. We're not even talking about fit, like which one fits better or anything else like that. People inevitably default to the brand name. The purse with the, crazy logos all over them, which I don't even understand why you do that, because everybody I know that's excessively wealthy don't ever carry purses like that, and they would never want to even be seen with one of those purses. But yet, I don't know, I got lots of friends and other family members who are, in more of that middle class or maybe even a little bit of middle upper class, and they are consistently buying those bags at $800, $1,000, $1,500 a piece. Makes no sense. I don't know. There's apparently a pair of shoes too that, the ladies like that have a red bottom to them. I don't know. Apparently it's worth like an extra $300 per pair to have a red bottom. I don't know. I know one person that has a pair and they hurt her feet and they're extremely uncomfortable. I don't know. But boy, she sure does feel pretty cool having those shoes. Doesn't make any sense to me. And that's how the vast majority of designer stuff is designed to do. It's simply to create a desire with you to have it, not necessarily provide you any more form, function. And in some cases, that's actually worse than what it would be if you bought something that was a little bit mid-tier priced or lower priced or just better quality instead of focusing on designer. So designer things are another thing that absolutely crush people. Now, I'm not talking about going down and getting the Walmart specials that are poor quality, poor everything else, but there's definitely a middle ground here. And sometimes that designer brand is actually as low quality as that Walmart brand there. But hey, it's another thing that adds up to not being able to retire at all, or definitely not having the retirement that you thought. So the third thing you waste money on is the latest gadget. Hey, I got it. The new tech is cool. The latest watch is cool. The latest phones are cool. The latest laptop is cool. I totally get it. Sometimes the marketing even gets me. You guys know I love Apple. I love Apple products. I have an M1 MacBook Pro that I use for all of my work stuff. I absolutely love it. I've had it now for probably 3 years, 4 years. I don't know. Anyways, I got it right whenever the M1 first came out, only because the prior laptop I had was from 2010. It was more than 10 years old. It was more than a decade old. I don't know how to upgrade or anything else of that nature. I'm not a tech guy at all. But the point being, it got to that point to where it's like, okay, it's taking me hours to edit videos. It's taking me hours to do tasks that this new computer that I have does in, just a few minutes in some cases. So it was time to upgrade. However, I see all these, Marquise Brownlee videos of, the new, M4 Ultra, whatever chip. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. And it does this and it does that. And it gets me for a little bit. But I never actually go through and I make the purchase because I understand I don't need the latest gadget. This computer does everything that I need it to do as quickly as I need it to do for now. Now, maybe if I was doing productions like him, maybe so, but I'm not. So therefore, it's completely unnecessary and I back away from that. But too many people fall for, I got to have the latest iPhone, got to have the latest watch, got to have the latest whatever it is in the gadget world because they're always coming out with new ones. And the reality is what you're using right now is robbing that future retirement, that future wealth that you would have if you had spent that money on investments, for example, as opposed to buying that and buying Apple stock instead of buying all those Apple products all those years. You would have absolutely come out ahead. The number 4 thing you're wasting money on is interest payments. Now, if you're making interest payments on an investment property, for example, where it's actually paying you more than what the interest is on that, well, that's a good investment. You're now arbitraging that interest rate and that debt. You're basically using debt the proper way. However, that is not how most people use debt. Most people use debt to buy wants. And unfortunately, that means you didn't need it in the first place. And number 2, now you're having to spend money every single month, even if you're making the minimum payments and you don't feel like you're spending that money. That means your balance is growing every single month because that interest is growing every single month. The point being, you're throwing money towards just basically bank guys' bonuses. That's all you're doing is funding multi-million-dollar bonuses for all these bankers. It is something you are absolutely wasting money on that will destroy your retirement. Wasted payments on interest. That includes cars. Obviously, hey, you can get whatever car you want. Hey, we got a payment plan for you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the interest rate. We'll just tell you what your monthly payment is. All those sort of things are all tricks to get you to overspend. So then that way you waste money on interest payments in addition to the money you're already wasting on the principal for all those different products, living on credit cards, everything else that's out there. It's a complete trap. It's a complete disaster if you want to retire, much less retire rich. Fifth thing you're wasting money on is exercise equipment. Okay, now let me caveat this one a little bit here. If you live up in a northern climate and you're a consistent marathoner, it makes sense to have a treadmill. I completely understand that. But I have lots of friends and family members who clearly don't work out at all. I mean, at all. I'm not going to get into that anymore. But yet they have the latest Peloton. They have all these other weight rooms and gadgets and all this other, health fitness style equipment that are bought with good intentions. But the reality is they're not using them. And they're wasting money. And I'm sorry, if you have bad habits, a great piece of exercise equipment is not going to break that bad habit. If you have poor eating habits, poor workout habits, going out spending $2,000 on the latest Peloton is not going to magically make you fit or motivate you to get fit. We all think it does, right? The same exact thing kind of applies with the clothing as well. I can tell you how many people show up at the gym at the beginning of January and man, they got the best looking shoes, the best looking, Lululemon pants and tops and, crazy headband things and, their iPod Pro, or AirPod Pro head, they just look like a pro, like they've been working out forever. And after a month, you never see them there again. Same exact thing. They bought all that crap, probably spent $1,000 or more getting geared up for the gym to hit their New Year's resolution. And it just turns out to be a giant waste of money in the end. I am all about getting in shape. I am all about that. But I see too many people jump straight to fancy equipment to try to solve their fitness problems instead of actually working on the root causes. And then whenever you find your lane or you find what you really love or you really enjoy, then at that stage, maybe committing to that piece of equipment for your health makes sense. But too many people do that in reverse and they end up with a lot of stuff that's just junk sitting in the garage collecting dust for no good reason. And then they come around again a couple years later, decide they want to get in shape. Of course, it's been sitting in the garage, it's a piece of junk, but this new thing over here is definitely going to motivate me in this time. And you see how this perpetuates over a lifetime, and you end up spending a lot of money on something that you just should have invested that money instead if you're not going to commit to actually getting healthy. The sixth thing you waste money on is fancy vacations. Now, I am not advocating for not taking vacations, although it is a great way to save money and it is a great way to build wealth. But I understand we all need time away. We all need to visit family. We all need to do a lot of things. But I have seen it repeatedly where a lot of folks go, man, it's been a tough year. I really deserve that upgrade at that hotel. I really deserve those first class tickets. I really need to visit this place so I can take my Instagram. That's the latest thing, is a lot of folks are taking detours and paying a lot of money for quote unquote experiences. Not even really for the experience. They're too busy taking pictures, taking selfies, trying to get the perfect selfie. Everybody else is mad at them because they're in the way and they're trying to clear people out for this one picture. Then they leave. So they're not even getting the experience. They're just taking a picture in front of the experience. It's just the craziest thing. I see it more and more. It definitely, before everything kind of shut down and everything else, I didn't really see it a whole heck of a lot. But I travel all the time, and I have for decades now. And man, it is something I see constantly. I'm like, really? You paid all that money just simply to walk up here, take a picture, and walk away? And I'm not talking about young folks trying to be influencers. I'm talking about average people with their families and everything else. And they drug the whole family there just simply to get a picture and then move on to the next thing. It's absolute insanity. So that's kind of one extreme. I understand that. But it's something I'm seeing more and more and more. And it's something I'm seeing more and more and more whenever I go to, exclusive villages. You can tell who stretched to get there and who didn't. It's a very, very different dynamic now. And a lot of people are justifying it based on, I need a break. I need this, self-care, whatever the case is. And I'm all about all those sorts of things. But you can do all those sorts of things without getting the quote unquote fancy on top. There's definitely ways to cut down on tickets, cut down on prices for hotels or Airbnbs. There's definitely a lot of different things that you can do that don't cost as much money, where you can get just as great of a picture of something different, or do something out in nature that's completely free, or do some other things in order to keep the cost down for the trip. But it seems like everybody's full bore, fancy everything, fancy dinners, fancy the whole nine. And at that stage, it ends up costing you a whole lot more than you thought it would, which of course, then we put it on credit cards, which goes back to that interest and all that other good stuff like that. And now you kind of see how the cycle kind of works in reverse and works against you actually retiring, much less retiring rich. All right, one more left, and this one is going to be the controversial one, but hear me all the way through and then go down to the comment section and blast me, but at least hear me all the way through. So the seventh thing you waste money on is your house. Now guys, keep in mind, when I talk about a house, I talk about an asset. For me, an asset is something that pays me to own it. So for instance, with a house, I get paid to live where I live because I have other tenants I house hack and they pay my rent. A lot of folks sometimes justify overpaying because, well, it's my home or it's an investment or something of that nature. Yeah, it's an investment. You've got to put all that money into, all that time, taxes, insurance, all that stuff. Costs go up every single year. And I agree, generally speaking, that's better than renting. I would 100% agree there. But too many folks view their house as something that it's an investment for the future. But not everybody lives, in a coastal area where the prices just gotten obscene over the years. Not everybody lives in a house that's actually going to go up significantly in value, far beyond what they've spent on it in the meantime. Not everybody does the math on how much is my mortgage actually costing me. Great, I bought my house when it was $300,000. Now it's worth $500,000. How much did you actually pay on that mortgage over the course of that 30 years during that time frame, or over that 15 years during that time frame? A lot of times you may have paid far more than what it was worth or what you're able to sell it for. So you actually lost, even though you think you won in the transaction, because in the end you end up with a $200,000 check in your hand, but you actually didn't win because you actually paid in more than that to begin with. You just don't account for it that way because you're not doing the totality of all the payments, and you're not treating it like a business, like a company. You're treating it like a home, which is great. I think you should do that internally. But when it comes down to the math of it, and we're talking about investments and waste of money versus not a waste of money, I'm sorry, compared to the situation others put themselves in by house hacking or doing all these other things to create investment opportunities out of the home, if you're just straight up stretching, it doesn't necessarily work out as well as you think that it does. And I've seen the overspending as well on a house. They upgrade too much. They upgrade beyond their neighborhood. They pay for, especially if you're buying from a builder, they pay for all the extras, which of course they just happily finance it for you, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things. Some upgrades are worth it. Some of them aren't. But again, it's one of those things, we justify it because it's our home, but unfortunately a lot of them are a waste of money and they end up keeping you from retiring rich in the end. And if you want a complete system to retire on as little as $300,000 and as quickly as a year, make sure you check out the pinned comment for the blacklist, where we have a complete system to walk you from zero to hero in that time frame on as little money. We got experts in there to help you out and everything else. Check it out. It's the pinned comment down there. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.